Okay. And then by 2005, you got busted for drugs.
Yes.
Okay. What did they catch you with?
I was dealing prescription drugs
Pills.
on a large level. Now, I get a 6'5" event. We all plead out. Top guys like Al, his father, they all get 1 to 3s. I get a 6'5". I could have walked out with an E felony and a conditional discharge, not even probation. But I stood on a global plea. That means I'll take more time so the top guys get less time. So I get a 6'5". They all get 1 to 3s. I'm home, or you get home in 120 days on a 6'5", and then you got the 5 years probation to work out. It's not like parole. You go in, you do a handprint in New York State. Back then, you go in every week, then they go every 2 weeks, then every month after a while for 5 years. You put your handprint in, punch your name in, your social security number, and you leave. That was it. So they're all in jail at the time. Me and 2 other guys are on the street. And one of the guys on the street's brother is holding a safety deposit box in his name for Al. There was about $110,000 in it at the time. Maybe he's away 6 months at this point, maybe 3 months. That's what the bookmaking took in 3 months, his end. That's paying all the bills. That's the guy being nice and putting money aside for him, because a lot of guys wouldn't have did that. So there's about $110,000 in it. This kid's younger brother turns around and runs into a swindler that sells tickets. He says, I can flip the money for you. Can you get money? Can you do this? Can you do that? And he says, I think I can get my hands on some money. So the kid, without permission, goes to the safe deposit box, takes out the 110 and gives it to this guy. Now, the guy doesn't realize the kid's brother's a wise guy, and the money belongs to an acting captain in the Gambino family, and takes off with the money. But now his brother wasn't made yet, but he was on his way to be made, the guy that took the money in the Lucchese family. So everybody was entwined. They all knew each other. They find out, he gives his brother a beating. They find out who the guy is. They grab the guy. The guy says, I had no idea. I was really looking to invest the money. The whole 9 yards. It's a bullshit story. He says, but there's something I could do. He goes, I work in pharmaceuticals. He goes, I get a pill called Vicodin, and I get large quantities of it. He goes, I could give you that to knock the money off the bill. And at this time, the wise guy friend of mine is not involved in drugs at all. So he brings it to me. He goes, I got to get this money back. It belongs to Al. He says, can you meet this guy every week? Takes whatever he gives you, flip it for me to whoever you know that can take it, and just bring me the money. He goes, I'll take care of you on the front end. And this guy said he'll take care of you on the back end when it's over. So I do some research. I find out about the pill. I find out they're hitting the scene hard. So I told him, yeah, no matter what. As soon as he said it to me, it's like, yeah, anything you bring to me like that, I'm just going to try it anyway. So, but I do my research after that, and I find out there's a market for it. I wind up finding a guy who was the president of a rehab facility that had connections to the Hells Angels and could take these pills. So I get them. He's giving me $5,000 a week, and they're coming in large jars like this, thousands of them. But each jar held 1,000. So I'm moving 7.5. That's what they were, Vicodins. After 3 months, I find out he gets 20, to be exact, because I say 30,000, I rounded up 27,000 pills a week. But the kid that was selling it for him wanted to move his family out west. Something a little shady about that. I didn't find out the situation till way after. He comes to me with it. He goes, listen, you're doing pretty good taking these pills from me without, you say nothing. He goes, how about you become the only guy I deal with? And then he tells me the whole plan. He gets 27,000 pills a week. He doesn't tell me where he gets them from or how he does. Do I want anything to do with it? I say yes right away. So with that, I bring it to the guy that I'm selling the pills to. And he says, yeah, of course. He goes, these guys are Hells Angels. They can use as much as you got. I said, all right. I take the 27,000 throughout the whole year, for the rest of the year, besides the 3 months that he was giving me, between 1,000 and 5,000. And I'm doing phenomenal. I got my own thing going on. This is just something to pay, but this has nothing to do with them. He's still just getting his 1,000 a week, 2,000, 5,000, whatever he gave me for their end, I would make sure they got. And back then, I was only making 50 cents a pill. So now at 27,000, let's round it off to 30, make 15,000 a week almost from these things. It was insane how fast they went. He gave them to me, and I gave them to somebody else an hour later, just like that. And it was phenomenal. I got bookmaking going on. I got the Shylock going on. You know, we got a ton of things going on because there's a few guys in jail, so we're collecting, you know, making more money for collecting because they're not on the streets, so they only got a certain amount. And we were doing phenomenal. You know, they had no idea that I was taking the $27,000. They just thought that I was taking enough to pay back their money. They come home. Al comes home. He finds out the whole situation. There's about another 5 or 15,000 on the table. I think it was 15,000 on the table. I think I brought them 5,000. He finds out how they were getting the money back. And I think we were on Tavern on the Green, if I'm not mistaken. Because we're not supposed to see each other. He's on parole. So, and we're co-defendants. So at this point, we go out to the back. There's like a wooded area back there. And he goes, listen, the drugs are done. He goes, I don't want to be affiliated with it. And he made so much money between the gambling and joker pokers and card games. It was like he was selling drugs. So he never wanted to be involved in the drug game. With that, he tells me to stop. Takes the last $5,000 payment. He wouldn't even accept it. He made somebody else take it from me. But I think there was 15,000 left on the table. And I also got this whole thing going on with the rest of the pills that he's giving me. Don't call him back. Don't return his phone calls. Stay away from him. Whatever you want, no problem. He calls me that Monday, which very rare. He's like, listen, we got to meet up. I'm back around. I'm like, all right. I says, we'll figure it out. I'm around too. I just happened to get back from Miami. I says, I'm around too. An hour later, he shows up at my house. He's never been to my house before. I never, ever, that's where my kids were, my wife, my family, never allowed anybody to come by my house to do business. He's in front of my driveway, double parked. I lived on a big avenue. And I run outside. I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, he goes, I got something for you to take care of that money, the balance for them, and we can go on and move. I'm like, listen, I says, I don't do this by my house. He goes, let's just get their money out of the way. Now, I don't know if the greed kicked in or it was just sitting in the trunk. I didn't know what he was going to hand me. He handed me 5,000 pills. I kind of thought it was going to be money or maybe 1,000 pills. He hands me a blue bag with 5,000 Vicodins in them. He pops his trunk. It's broad daylight. The summer, it's June. And he hands me the bag. I grab the bag like an idiot. I go to walk in my house. From the corner of my eye, I see them sitting on me. I run in, bolt the door. I jump the fence in my backyard. I put them underneath my neighbor's garbage pail. I had a false bottom where I used to keep cocaine. They can never find it. They ringing the bell. They're ringing the bell. They're ready to kick the door down. I open up the door. I let them in. They don't have a search warrant. They only have an arrest warrant. And they have the camcorder. They have a camcorder at the time, and they show me the camcorder. They're like, we know what's in that bag. Where's the blue bag? I says, I don't know what you're talking about. They pull out the camera. They show me the video recording. Now, at the time, my brother-in-law, who I didn't get along with, was at my house. He should have never been there. We didn't get along. He just came home from jail. He was home maybe a month, maybe not even. He shouldn't even have been around me. My kids were there. My wife was there. My in-laws were there. It was awful. He opens up his mouth and goes, officers, listen, I'm on parole. Should I get out of here or is this going to be a problem? They ran with that. They couldn't go in the house. They're at my doorway now. They said, listen, we're going to take your wife in and we're going to take your brother-in-law in for violating parole for being around you and put this down as a drug house. I was never going to give anything up. The drugs, nothing. Now I'm in a predicament. This guy's whining about his parole. My wife, I know that was just going to be bullshit. A couple hours, she would have been fine. I give in. I say, all right, but I have to get them. I'm not going nowhere. My family's right here. Let me go get them. I jump over, I get them, I come back with them, I give them the pills, put the cuffs on me, and they take me in.
How much time did you get for that?
I called it 2 flat.
2 years.
They would charge me with an 8.5 to 15, or was it? I think it was 7.5 to 15. They were looking to give me, But it was now they were giving out flat bids for nonviolence and drug crimes. But this was when they thought I was the kingpin. They thought that was the main guy. We happened to go to Rikers Island. This was my first experience on Rikers Island. I wound up in one of the worst buildings ever called the Beacon. Not only was I the only Italian, I was the only white guy in this whole building. Gang related. My classification was a 27. No bail. This was my first serious pinch. And I got no bail. It was insane. And the highest classification you can have at this time was 30. I was a 27. So I get no bail. A month goes by. My classification changes. I get sent to the annex, which is, I didn't even know there was nothing on Rikers Island is nice, but this part of the building was a lot nicer than where I was. They weren't stabbing and killing each other, I can tell you that. So I'm wondering, now I got schooled a little bit when I was in there. If your classification drops, something happened with the case or your code D went bad. So the top guy was bad. He was walking around filming that whole day. He had got pinched, I guess, a while back. And he was filming all his guys that he sold to. And it wasn't as big as I thought. He put away pharmacists. He had a bunch of Middle Eastern pharmacists that would give him all their Vicodin. Because back then they weren't getting rid of him like today. And that's what he had. He'd go around to maybe 10 different pharmacists and get 27,000 pills a week. And that's what it was. He gave up the pharmacist. He actually called me to Reverend Ross's office. That was a reverend there, Irish guy, and told me, he's like, listen, you were just a small fish in a big pond. They have no idea who you are. I told him what you were doing, which he told him I was collecting money for the Gambinos through his drug operation. None of them would return my phone call. Didn't help with lawyers, nothing. Because even though I got most of their money back, less 15,000, whatever it was, because he told me not to go and deal with them again. They used that as an excuse. And that was another reason why I was shot down, to be straightened out.